Heidi ho, you've reached Bupson Media Co., and today, I'm talking about plastic. No surprise, because if you couldn't tell already, I'm kind of obsessed with 3D printing and pretty much everything that has to do with it. I mean, I have what, like 3 3D printers now? And then over like 20 different spools of filament? This hobby has kind of grabbed me by the ear and the wallet. Point is, I've tried a lot of different filaments in my time, and today I want to go through all of them and talk about which ones were my favorite and which ones I never want to see ever again. But before I get into that, I need to let you know that 97.8 of you aren't subscribed, and that's not very cool, so you should probably change that and you should subscribe to my channel, because then you will be very cool. With that out of the way, let's get into the video. Now, when you get into 3D printing, what's the first plastic that everybody tells you to try? PLA, or polylactic acid. So PLA kind of makes up the majority of all of my filament. I mean, starting from there, that brown one, all the way back, those are all PLA. And I don't think I'm alone in that pretty much all of the filament I have is PLA. On the surface, it seems like the perfect filament. It prints at a variety of temperatures from pretty low to kind of high, and it's a very forgiving plastic. As long as you have enough cooling, it'll print pretty much flawlessly every time. But that isn't to say that it doesn't have its drawbacks. It has very low temperature resistance, and it will completely cook in the sun. And it also doesn't like rubbing against itself, so in applications like gears or other things that are constantly under stress, PLA tends to deform and degrade a lot faster. And its layer adhesion is also not that great, so for mechanical parts and stuff that does actual work, it's not the best choice. But it comes in a variety of colors, and just because of how easy it is to print, how cheap it is, at least in the United States, and the fact that you can pretty much make anything with it and it'll at least work for a little bit, I'm giving PLA a 7 out of 10. It's a pretty baseline good filament. Now, this next filament that I want to talk about is also PLA, but I'm giving it a different category just because it has different properties from PLA, and I feel like they're worth mentioning and talking about. Silk PLA. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of it. Silk PLA is that kind of plastic that looks comically shiny. Like if you ever see a 3D printing stand at a farmer's market or whatever, and you see a bunch of comically shiny parts, that's probably what it's made out of. Now, the problem I have with Silk PLA isn't the way it looks. I think it looks really cool. It's a bunch of other factors that make Silk PLA kind of a nightmare. For one, the silkiness effect is completely dependent on printing temperature and speed. You can see on this benchy here, on the bottom, it's pretty much matte. Like, it's not really that shiny, but then here at the top where it slows down, there's a very distinct line where it just becomes silk. Now, this kind of makes it really difficult to work with if you're, say, printing a vase out of PLA and you're not using vase mode, because different sections of it are printing at different speeds, so each section of it just looks really weird. Not only that, but Silk PLA is extremely weak. I'm not going to demonstrate it here because this is the only one I have and I don't really feel like making another one, but the layer adhesion goes bye-bye when the silk component is added to the PLA. This makes it only good for aesthetic purposes. And because of the material properties, I just don't really like using it, and I feel like I'd rather just use like a metallic PLA. So Silk PLA is getting a 5 out of 10. It's good to have around for aesthetics, but it's not really good for anything else. Now, I may have forgotten to mention this, but I'm talking about these in the order that I remember trying them. And where most people go after PLA is usually PETG, but I'm special. I wanted to try TPU. TPU is that flexible material that you typically see phone cases made out of. The end result of TPU is usually very cool. I mean, the fact that you can just make something that flexes this much on a machine that typically prints with hard plastic, it's pretty neat. It also has like near perfect layer adhesion, which makes it great for parts that are constantly under stress or parts that are going to be taking a beating. TPU is just a great material in general. But you want to know what's not great about TPU? Printing it. See, most 3D printers have these PTFE tubes, usually called Bowden tubes or something. And because TPU is so flexible and so floppy, trying to get it through these tubes to your toolhead can be impossible sometimes. So in AMSs, you're not going to be printing TPU. It's just not going to work. For harder TPUs like this one, this is TPU 95A, that basically means how flexible it is. The lower it is, the more flexible, the higher it is, the less flexible. 95A is about as good as you can get by just feeding it into the back of the printer through that Bowden tube, but anything softer and it needs to be fed directly into the tool head. So for softer TPUs, that could be a pretty major drawback and it makes it very inconvenient to print. But TPU 95A, I think is like the perfect TPU because it's really flexible, but also very printable. You do have to print it at pretty slow speeds and at pretty high temperatures in order to get that perfect layer adhesion. And it also likes to absorb water like a sponge. But if you can get past all of that, TPU is that material where you don't really need it all that often, but when you do, you will be so happy that you have some lying around. It's a really cool material, and I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Now, after I had my fun with TPU, I decided to try PETG. Now, some people say PETG, but I say PETG because the word PET followed by G just rolls off the tongue better. PETG is a material known for having a little bit more flex than PLA, being amazingly UV resistant, and also being translucent. This makes PETG a great choice for things that you want to be able to see through, like lampshades or light diffusers, or even like vases look really cool with translucent PETG. And the fact that it's UV resistant also means that if you print something that's going to be outside, like a sign, it won't degrade as fast as PLA or other options. It doesn't like to stick to PEI beds that much, but just because it's not good at sticking to beds doesn't mean it's not good at sticking to itself. It has great layer adhesion, it's very durable, and it is much happier in mechanical settings like with gears, so it's a great choice for stuff like that. So regular PETG, I'm giving it a pretty respectable 7 out of 10, right there with PLA, losing points because it's not fun to work with. But there's a version of PETG that is pretty much the perfect thermoplastic. Like, I'm not even kidding. It's the perfect thermoplastic for 3D printing. This is PETG HF. And this filament is actually like my favorite. If it weren't for the fact that PLA is renewable and that PETG is not, I probably wouldn't even have any PLA, because this is just such a good plastic for anything. It's pretty much PETG with additives that make it easier to print. Now, these additives do remove some of the temperature resistance. I think this is up to like 64 or 65 degrees, but it's still plenty temperature resistant for, say, being in a hot car without melting too much. Again, it's great in mechanical settings. It comes in a variety of fun colors, although Bambu's PETG HF isn't available in transparent colors because of the additives. But I love working with it. It's just as easy to print as PLA. The layer adhesion is great. It's super durable. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Minus 1 point for the lower temperature resistance. But okay, I hear you. Maybe you're scared to try PETG or TPU, and you just want to stick with good old PLA, but you want to benefit from having a stronger material. Now, that may seem impossible, but it's not. Meet PLA Plus, sometimes called PLA Pro. Now, in PLA Plus, the plus stands for plus PHA, which is a different thermoplastic that pretty much just enhances layer adhesion, enhances mechanical properties, and just makes it a much stronger plastic in general. Yeah, not really much to say about it that I haven't said about PLA already. It's just better PLA, so I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. It loses a point for being very expensive compared to normal PLA, but I think it's worth it to have it around instead of, say, ABS. Now, this next one, I don't even know why I decided to get it. I don't even really have a way to introduce it at all. It's just Aero PLA or PLA lightweight. Now, this kind of PLA has something called a blowing agent in it. Basically, if you print it at a lower temperature, you can see here the lowest temperature is 190 degrees Celsius. It won't do anything at all. It'll just print like PLA. But once you start printing it hotter, it'll activate that blowing agent. Now, I think it's baking soda, because I think somebody said that in a YouTube video one time. And pretty much what it does is it just infuses air into the plastic. You know, kind of like a really wet spool of PLA, except this is more expensive because it's supposed to do that. Now, one of its names, Aero PLA, kind of gives away the only use for it, which is in remote-controlled airplane parts. You know, you print it out of Aero PLA, it glides through the air. Makes sense, right? But other than that, it's just kind of useless. I mean, it is not strong at all. It takes PLA, which already has poor layer adhesion and mechanical properties, and it adds air to it, so it just makes it worse. And what's better, you can't retract it at all. Retracting is basically when it's printing, it retracts it a little bit to avoid stringing. You can't do that because it's just constantly foaming out of the nozzle. So if I'm being honest, I don't really know what use it has other than remote control airplane parts. And even more, I don't know why you need an entire kilogram of it. I don't know why this isn't sold in like smaller amounts. So yeah, I have it. I don't know what to do with it. Yeah, I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. It's just not that great. All right, guys, so that wraps up the video, and wait, there's another. Oh no, I have to talk about ABS. So, ABS, it's a thermoplastic that people typically choose for its high temperature resistance and good mechanical properties, and its price usually. We have to have a serious talk. If you're still printing with ABS, you need to do some research and you need to stop. ABS is the worst plastic that I have ever worked with, ever, in my entire life. I would rather make a 3D Benchy out of hot glue than use ABS ever again. All it does is leach styrene fumes into the air, cover my entire P1S in this white cancerous fume that I have to wipe off, and the styrene fumes are so bad that they leach into other rooms. They're so potent that even being in another room won't save me from the stupid styrene fumes. It warps like nobody's business, it hates sticking to my print bed, and it just There are so many options on the market. You could try polypropylene, you could try polycarbonate, or even ASA. Yeah, polycarbon ASA, they also leave off a bunch of toxic fumes, but at least that's worth the cancer. ABS has no UV resistance, very mid-temperature resistance, and for its price, you could just buy a better filament and get more use out of it, get a better part. Yes, it might be a little bit more expensive, but even ASA, you could just go and find a cheaper ASA. ABS is useless. Useless, I tell you. Look, if ABS is the cheapest plastic in your country, and you buy it because of that, whatever. It's a thermoplastic, you can make stuff out of it, it comes in colors, fine. But if you have any choice between ABS and PETG or PLA or ASA, plastics that all cost pretty much the same here in the United States, don't buy the f***ing ABS. It is the worst plastic, you're wasting your time and money, and you're giving yourself cancer for a part that isn't even that good. So I don't have my ABS anymore, I got rid of it, I don't even want to deal with it anymore. And I keep these two benchies that are made out of ABS as a reminder to never buy ABS ever again. ABS gets a 0 out of 10. And with that, the video has concluded. So yeah, you might disagree with some of my rankings, you might disagree with some of my compliments, with some of my negatives, and if you do, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your opinion and why it's better than mine. So yeah, if you liked the video, then you should leave a like, because that's what like means. You should also subscribe to my channel. Like I said, 97.8 of you aren't, so you could be part of the elite 2.2% that is subscribed, and then you'll be very cool. Or else I'm gonna go print ABS in your room, unenclosed, at 3 in the morning. For legal reasons, that was a joke. And yeah, bye.